item is also for the Minister for Education and Skills. It's in the names of Deputy Joan Burton, Ruth Coppinger and Jack Chambers, and they wish to discuss the campaign by parents of children with autism in Dublin 15. Now, Deputy Burton and Deputy Chambers, being present, say 2 minutes each. Deputy, ladies first.
Thank you, Ceann Comhairle. On Monday evening, I, along with Deputy Chambers and Deputy Coppinger, attended a packed meeting of parents, professionals, education providers, the NCSE and public representatives in the Crown Plaza Hotel in Blanchardstown in Dublin 15, representing people from both Dublin 15 and Dublin 7. The committee who called the meeting is comprised of a group of parents of children with autism, along with professionals who work with children with autism in the area for over 10 years. However, the parents who called the meeting on Monday night in Blanchardstown are firmly of the view, Minister, that a new innovation is required, an ASD special school for Dublin 15. Dublin 15 and the adjacent parts of Dublin 7 along the Navan Road, they have a population probably around the 120,000 mark, considerably bigger than either Limerick or Waterford, but there is no special school for children with severe ASD. Currently in Dublin 15 there are 32 primary schools and 11 secondary schools. However, at primary level there are only 18 ASD classes, 108 students approximately, and only 8 secondary school ASD classes of 36 students approximately. So the parents are firmly of the view that there is a proportion of children with ASD who have very complex presentations of autism and present with very significant needs. The majority of children with moderate to severe autism are non-verbal. These children are unable to cope in mainstream classroom settings and do not benefit from integration. And there was a united opinion on that at the meeting of well over 150 people, Minister. Minister, I want you to meet, and agree here if you can, to meet particularly representatives of the parents and the professionals at the meeting, the local TDs, and to actually enable us to have a discussion of when we can get this absolutely urgently required special school for children with ASD.
Thanks, Ceann Comhairle. And like Deputy Burton, I attended a meeting of parents, professionals and people involved in this new campaign. And Minister, what many of the parents said on that evening was that children at the age of 6 expelled from a school because of no fault of their own, because they have severe behavioural difficulties. And as a country, we have progressed in this area over 20 years, with ASD units being established, with SNAs being provided for. But autism is what it says it is. It's a spectrum disorder. And for children with moderate to severe diagnosis, sometimes the classification that we have in our education system doesn't match their requirements. And we have had a policy of inclusion from your department, that has resulted in some instances of the exclusion of many children from getting their right to education vindicated. And what parents in Dublin West want is an autism special school established so that there's a proper educational healthcare mix of occupational therapists, teachers, speech and language therapists, so that their behavioural difficulties can be dealt with, but that their educational rights can be provided for. And to hear a parent saying that she was given, their child being put on a reduced day, or their child eventually being expelled because the education system we have can't cater for them, and their child is then left at home, lingering without any hope, prospect or opportunity to be the best they can be in their life, is a tragic circumstance of our education system that I think we have to rectify. And in Dublin West, for parents who may want to go to a special school, many of them have to travel over 30 kilometres. And you know Dublin Dublin West is a constituency close to your own, that we have a population the size of many other cities across the country, and I think these parents' campaign should be supported by you and your department. And as Deputy Burton mentioned, the parents would like in the first instance to present the data, the facts and their own stories to you, so that your officials can meet and support what they're trying to establish, so that their children are given the best chance in life. And that's what we're looking for, and to work with you on it. Thank you.
Thanks for it. I'd like to thank the deputies for raising this. It is a very important area in which, indeed, an area where both in my own time and, to be fair to my predecessors also, we've made huge investment. Since 2011, as Deputy Burton would know, we've increased spending in the support of children with special needs by 43%. So it's risen consistently, even in the most difficult times, to 1.8 billion. And it is a provision that is based entirely on the assessment of need. So it's not based on any restrictions or budget restrictions. The NCSE, based on a professional assessment, decides how children with ASD should best be provided for. Roughly speaking, I don't have the numbers exactly here with me, but roughly speaking, 60% plus are provided for in mainstream classes, and then the remainder are split sort of evenly between ASD special classes within mainstream schools and special schools. However, in recent years, because of the advice that the inclusion model is the optimal model, the explosion and expansion of provision has been in special classes, and the number of special classes has increased, has trebled since 2011, and continues to grow year on year. Now, the NCSE, it is the NCSE who advises me and the building units of my department as to what the appropriate need would be. There haven't been many additional special schools. I'm not aware of any new special school being created in recent times, but that's not to say it can't be if the NCSE believes that's the best approach. But the main expansion has been the effort to integrate children with ASD within units within mainstream schools, and that is better for their development. But of course, if the department, if the NCSE advises that a special school would be an alternative placement, then we would seek a placement. The department, the NCSE would, through its CNOs, seek an appropriate placement. Obviously, year by year, then the decision has to be made of the additional provision. And one new power, which I know the deputies will be aware of, that we took in the recent school admissions bill, was to give me the power in certain circumstances, on the advice of the NCSE, to require a school to open an ASD unit where a school may be reluctant to do so. So Deputy Burton is right. There are, is it 18 special ASD units in the area. There will be need for additional, and we are making provision in the 2019 budget for additional ASD classes to be opened across the country in areas where they are identified as being in need, and I'm sure Dublin 15 would be an area where that would be. However, I'm not the one who makes a call as between whether a placement for a particular child is best in a special school or in a special class or in a mainstream setting. In any event, we provide support. As you know, even in my own relatively short period in the department, we have appointed 1,800 additional resource teachers and 4,000 additional SNAs to support the integration of children into our school system. So it's we will provide what the best support that we are advised by the NCSE based on the individual assessments of each child, and that's what we seek to deliver.
Thank you. Minister, the department really has to take responsibility for the education of these children. The parents have no difficulty with the ASD special units. We all know they have done very good work for the children for whom they are appropriate. But bear in mind, this may come as a shock to you, Minister, that for the school year 2017-2018, there were, as far as we know, 56 students on the home tuition grant, in Dublin 15 and more in Dublin 7. That really is an astonishing figure in a way. These are children who have very specific needs. Their school and mainstream teachers are unable to cope with the behavioural issues, such as, for instance, flight risks, self-harm from time to time, sensory overload, parents particularly stress that, and violent outbursts at times, as the children are unable to express themselves effectively. The meeting the other night would have brought tears to your eyes, Minister. I urge you to meet the parents and the professionals. I know this constitutes a change of policy, but these are a section of our children who have been left out and who deserve a chance to get the education appropriate to their lives.
Thanks, Kilcorla. And I think the first thing, Minister, is I think it would be worth your while meeting with these parents so that they can describe to you the challenges their children face on a daily basis. As Deputy Burton has mentioned, there are 56 students or children on a home tuition grant, many of whom have been excluded by our education system because it's not fit for purpose for them. And whilst I recognise that there is a policy of inclusion with ASD units and some children thrive within those units, for people with severe autism that are non-verbal, that aren't receiving the appropriate healthcare and educational interventions, and teachers can't even cope with difficulties to manage the children in that setting, we need to have a policy response. And at present, we're not doing that within the current policy construct that we have through the NCSE. So I'd ask you to meet with the parents to see what their proposal is, so that they want the best for their children. And you mentioned the assessment of need process. We know that takes years, and our whole community healthcare intervention isn't appropriate. They want the proper mix to be delivered for children with very complex needs. We shouldn't be expelling 6-year-olds from classrooms in primary schools and leaving them on home tuition grants to linger without any opportunity or prospect in life. That's not the department you want to run, and I think a meeting would open your eyes. It certainly opened my eyes on Monday to see the depth of this problem and the sheer numbers of children that are left at sea in our education system.
Yeah, no, I'd just like to assure the Deputy that we are providing a policy response all the time. As I outlined, we've delivered 1,800 extra resource teachers, 4,000 extra SNAs, 500, this is in my time now, just since 2016, 500 additional ASD units, 30 additional NEP staff. We've strengthened the inclusion service of the NCSE itself to support parents, teachers and students. We've reformed the way in which resource teachers are allocated to make it more in tune with the needs of pupils, and that has been done on the advice of the NCSE. We are now starting to pilot, and I think it may include some of your areas, pilot the integration of certain therapies into schools, delivering therapies, additional therapies, be it speech and language or occupational therapy in schools. And in addition, we are now commencing this coming year in 2019, the implementation of the NCSE's recent report on how SNAs should be delivered in a broader context of having a regional centre that can provide a whole range of therapies, including nursing supports and appropriate supports. So the advice of NCSE to me has been that this is the way in which we should develop the suite of policies to best support children. So I'm open and always open to policy change, but I do have to rely on the NCSE, who I don't think have let us down in terms terms of the advice and the inclusive way in which they evaluate needs. And as I say, we here in this House have taken additional powers, that I now have the power on the advice of the NCSE to instruct a school to do things which we never had before. So, while I'm always open to initiatives, and I will ask specifically the NCSE as a result of this debate to assess the needs in Dublin 15 and in the adjoining areas, and also to look at the proposal coming forward from the parents.